Hi, my name is Molly DePinto, and my presentation is on major depressive disorder in popular press in comparison to published sources such as a textbook. So, what exactly is major depressive disorder? So, a common name for major depressive disorder is just depression. A loose definition of depression would be a prolonged mental health condition that curbs daily functions. And it's commonly associated with hopelessness, pessimism, just depressive thoughts, and usually it comes with physical signs such as the change of sleep and eating habits. I chose this topic because I want to broaden my personal knowledge of a commonly discussed mental health condition that nobody really looks too deep into. And as an RA at this school, I want to be able to push myself to be able to recognize the signs and symptoms of my friends or family if a concern arises to better do my job. The purpose of this study is to examine 3 popular press articles that summarize research studies done, so scholarly articles, and to look into the differences in biological and environmental aspects of this disorder, and to compare the limitations of the popular press articles to information from a textbook resource. So we're going to start with the textbook overview of what I learned while reading through this textbook. So major depressive disorder consists of prolonged periods of depressive episodes, which are bouts of extreme personality changes. In these episodes, it is suspected that low levels of neurotransmitters are large contributors, which are little chemical signals released by neurons, which are nerve cells that communicate through electrical impulses all around the body, controlling movement and general functions of the body, which the last thing that I found in this textbook was, as well as biological reasoning causing major depressive disorder, there are environmental factors that can influence a person's approach to life, especially if it is largely pessimistic, and that's where we'll get into some of the personality traits later on. Again, this was all within the textbook that I found, pages 439, 50, 42, and 441. So, in the first popular press article, titled New Study Links Depression to Accelerated Brain Aging by Bianca Santiago, she did a review of a research study that examined the role that neurotransmitters and gene expression play in healthy brains versus brains with major depressive disorder. So in this study, 670 participants were used, 239 with major depressive disorder, and 431 healthy individuals as the control group. By utilizing these brain imaging techniques, they measured the thickness of the cortex of the brain and compared that to the brain's technical age, of how thin it was to their actual age of the individual. The thinner the cortex, the older the brain was considered in comparison to the actual age of the person. So they found that individuals with major depressive disorder had brains that appeared much older due to their cortex thinning. So areas of the brain that showed the most thinning were associated with neurotransmitter changes to serotonin, dopamine, and other neurotransmitters in association, and serotonin and dopamine are most known as the happiness neurotransmitters, which would make sense for major depressive disorder. So the second popular press article that I researched for this presentation was titled "Neuroscientists Make Fascinating Breakthrough Linking Disinhibited Brain Networks to Depression" by Eric W. Nolan. So in this study that Dolan covered, it explores how electrical stimulation of the brain can affect patients that don't respond well to traditional treatment methods, such as deep brain stimulation or drugs or methods like that. So 6 patients were being temporarily implanted with electrodes in their prefrontal cortex, orbital frontal cortex, and anterior cingulate cortex. These electrodes allowed the researchers to measure neural communication while patients also recorded their mood levels over a 10-day span. So in this study, they found that the more severe the symptoms of the major depressive disorder, the brain produced low-frequency signals. And the higher the mood, the higher the frequency signals. So symptoms of depressive episodes, when a person was going through these depressive episodes, electrical signals became imbalanced between the 2 hemispheres of the brain. This can really impact how we utilize deep brain stimulation in the brain currently. The last popular press article that I examined for this presentation was titled "Impaired Identity and Negative Affectivity Predict Depression and Anxiety Symptoms Study Finds" by Vladimir Hedrick. he covered that the study that researched exploring if individuals with maladaptive personality traits will present higher levels of depression and anxiety. So, what are maladaptive personality traits? Well, they're thoughts, behaviors, or actions that hinder an individual's ability to function normally, such as emotional dysregulation, avoidance, or just negative talking to yourself in general, negative thoughts. So the research methodology was they utilized 530 Polish adults with ages ranging from 30 to 97 years old. They completed a range of self-evaluations and questionnaires to determine if they had these maladaptive personality traits and depression and anxiety. So what they found was nearly all the people that indicated signs of maladaptive personality traits had higher associations with these symptoms of depression and anxiety. So that is why they concluded that maladaptive personality traits can predict major depressive disorder. So some of the limitations of these popular press articles was first, misinformation and implication. Especially to kind of elaborate on this, the second article was titled, Neuroscientists Make Fascinating Breakthrough Linking Disinhibited Brain Networks to Depression. This title kind of implies that this was confirmed to be true, even though if you look deeper and you click on the link to the study, this study only consisted of a sample size of 6 people in total. This is not enough to cause a generalization of this fact determining to be true. This fact cannot be a causation between these two variables because of this small sample size. You can't apply what you find from 6 people to everybody in this population. So basically, you can only determine a possible correlation. So it was a very much misinformation and implication. The second one is an oversimplification of the sample size. In the first article with the title New Study Links Depression to Accelerated Brain Aging, it contained 670 participants, and it is entirely possible for every individual to contain a confounding variable that can invalidate the data. We were given no information on who these participants were. There were also no figures of graphs or data tables, which is very limiting and making it easier for people to understand, because when people have visuals of actual data and solid numbers, it takes away any huge chance for misinterpretation and misinformation to be spread or gathered from their popular press article. So overall, what I learned from this presentation and project was that major depressive disorder can cause thinning to the cortex of the brain, which accelerates the brain aging process. I learned that certain personalities are more susceptible to developing major depressive disorder, as I mentioned, maladaptive personality traits. I learned that a person's external environment plays a huge role in the development of this disorder as well. I also learned that popular press articles are significantly more misleading in comparison to professional research studies, as I mentioned, misinformation and implications and oversimplification of the participants that they utilize in their study, and even more confounding things that I discovered. Some of the questions that I still want to research on my own is, can the damage done to the brain by a major depressive disorder be reversed, or will the thinning of the certain areas remain for the rest of the individual's life? I'm also looking into how does depression play a role in an individual's memory abilities after it is cured or repressed. So after doing this presentation and looking through all the popular press articles, in the future I will consume more professional research articles instead of consuming these popular press articles or social media blogs, to be sure that I am not misinterpreting any part of the actual experiment. For example, in the misinterpretation of the title, Neuroscientists Make Fascinating Breakthrough through Linking Disinhibited Brain Networks to Depression, implies that information was confirmed to be true, although it was only consisted of 6 people in total. I will utilize sites such as Google Scholar or National Institutes of Health, just any peer-reviewed site, to build baselines on the knowledge of topics that I want to explore, because they will provide raw data and experiments that have already been conducted. I will also, as a student here, take advantage of the free textbooks that have been given so that I can be sure that everything is foolproof for my own learning. And here are my references, and thank you for listening to my presentation.